Hello and welcome. We are doing chapter number 4 of 335 Mass Communication Grade 12 NIOS. Today we are doing a very short chapter, but a very important chapter, which is called Development Communication. Now we know what is communication. Communication is a empowering tool. It's a two-way process. So you convey effective communication, you convey a message through a medium. Now, in the idea, what is development now? Anything that gives you progress, anything that gives you change in the socio-economic condition of the people is development. So when you combine the two together, development communication is use of communication to promote good development. Now, the best example of development communication that we can think of is a very common example, and you can write this example everywhere. It is the Pulse Polio campaign. Amitabh Bachchan comes and says, "Do boond zindagi ke," 2 drops of life. Exactly these are the words, and you can also write it. Another very good example of development communication is the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the cleanliness drive that has been very popular. For making development communication effective, you need the DC. A DC is a development communicator. So what is a development communicator, and what are the 3 characteristics of a DC, development communicator? Well, number one, very importantly, a development communicator is to know the process very well. So he should know the process of development. Number two, he should have knowledge of what is to be developed, right? So he should have the process of development and communication. Number two, he should have the proper knowledge and professional technique to the audience. So if he should speak the language, he should know if it's rural area, if it's Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, he should know about wet and dry waste, example. And finally, he should know how to distribute the message to millions of people. So he should know the medium. Will he use print media? Will he use television? Will he use a celebrity? So many areas that we have to work on development communication. Now, usually the question that comes in development communication is, what are the different form of media used for development and communication? Well, to begin with, the first media that we knew was Doordarshan, right? So there was a very popular series called Krishi Darshan. You may not even identify. It was for the farmers, which seed to sow, what are the crops, what are the facilities provided, how to use the effective use, how much pesticides, fertilizers, all of it. So this is a very good example. So today we have a television medium for development communication. We also have what we call the oral medium, the radio. So in the old time, it was all India radio to have your FM channels. FM channels give a lot of messages across. So this is very importantly. You also have very simple print media. Print media as newspapers, dailies, magazines. That is something that you can work on. There's also a traditional media, people who are very close to. So, traditional media is very participative. So you may find people coming and sitting together doing a skit, nukkad natak as we call, or role plays, which can also be used. A lot of good examples of nutrition. So people come from house to house, they talk about good nutrition, cleanliness, hygiene. In terms of magazine, we have, there is a magazine called Menstruopedia. It talks about women's menstruation. And this is very important to know. You should not shy away from examples, write examples like that. Then there are documentaries. Example, there's an Oscar nominee called Elephant Whisperer from How Do You Save Small Elephant Calves in Tamil Nadu. So you can talk about documentaries like that. There's documentary on health, there's documentary on hygiene, there's documentary on women's rights. So these are some of the examples. Very quickly, what organizations are mostly involved in this part? As I said, a lot of NGOs. So non-government NGOs are there. Individual concerned citizens are there. For example, environmental activists like Greta Thunberg, very popular. Or you have government departments like Department of Agriculture, Department of Fisheries, who are involved in this kind of program. There is another question that usually you have is, what are the 5 core departments used? So I'll not give you too many, but thoda aasan bana deta hu, make it easy. Remember, everything to do with animals. So on land, it's agriculture. Then you must have water, it is fisheries. Then there is poultry and cattle farms, so animal husbandry is there. All 3 of them are very easy to remember: agriculture, fisheries, and animal husbandry. Then you also know about good employment, and you also talk about 3 E's. So employment, environment, and education. So you're talking about saving the environment, giving jobs to people, and good institutions to educate. Then can also be something on health and sanitation. So there is health, as Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is there, family welfare is there. So all of these are simple campaigns we are talking about. And as an example of campaign is, always remember simple examples of Pulse Polio campaign and Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. There is Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, SSA, Education for All. There is Pradhan Mantri Yojgar, so how to give employment. Just simple examples. And this brings us to an end of this small but very, very powerful chapter. So remember the terminal questions are there. Development communication, you go example with good examples, different forms of media use, any newspaper you come out, there's so many campaigns that you can think of. So use these and write down. Good luck for your examination and a small chapter, but a powerful chapter. Best of luck.